Said that the topic of our event was, what do we say? It was learn, scale, succeed. So what I want to talk about succeeding before I introduce our next guest speaker, how do we succeed in our city? Who wants to succeed? We all want to succeed, right? Has anybody hit, road bumps in their quest for success, right? Who has crashed and burned? Any brave ones to raise their hand? So that does happen. But it says about about succeeding in our city, so achieving personal or professional goals and gaining recognition or satisfaction within the city's ecosystem. Who wants to have more recognition? That your face is out there. There's many faces that we see out there. Hey, I see them, I know them, right? Which is cool, right? But then it says success in a city is defined by reaching milestones such as securing a dream job, launching a successful business, or contributing to the community. It can also mean feeling a sense of accomplishment and purpose through the connections and opportunities the city provides. Who has felt the benefits of connecting with other people, other networks? Isn't it awesome? Who made a new friend, made a new exchange of a contact or business card? Okay, so it's awesome because you get to hear about people's projects, right? And then it says, success is often marked by how well you integrate in the city's fabric and make meaningful contributions. So it's important to, mix well with the city's fabric, which is awesome. So I want to talk about our next guest speaker. It's awesome because you get to meet new people. He's a business broker. Had a chance to speak with his wife right now. New young couple. It's beautiful to see young couples. But his name is Rolly Yacir Saldivar. He's a business broker in El Paso, Texas, specializing in helping business owners successfully navigate the buying and selling process. He is committed to providing expert guidance and creating opportunities for the growth of the city. And to add to the growth of the city, he's going to be adding a new baby in the next couple of months. So please help me welcome Mr. Rolly Yacir. Come on in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. So today we're going to be talking about business breakthrough, mastering the art of buying and selling a business. So the first thing we're going to start with is just a small disclaimer, just because of a lot of the legal stuff we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about things that involve CPAs, things that involve attorneys. And since I am neither, you're always recommended to hire a CPA or an attorney for any of these types of questions. With that being said, just a little about me. I'm an entrepreneur. I got into business when I was 15. I'm potentially the only full-time business broker in El Paso. I haven't met anyone else that does anything besides that. I'm also a restaurant owner, 5 years in the industry, and I'm from Arizona.
What restaurant? I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you speak up just a little bit?
Yes, absolutely.
Also, what restaurant?
Birra Culiacan. And so what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about buyers, the key steps in purchasing a business, lease pitfalls, an asset versus a stock sale, and due diligence. Secondly, sellers, the key strategies to maximize value. And then 3, post-purchase advice. So let's get right into it. For buyers, we're starting here. Also, a lot of the things here, I'm going to have it in a YouTube video, and I'm going to have it on a PDF for you guys to access it, because a lot of the words might be written too small, especially for those in the back. So we'll have that resource for you. So 1, the case study of the bakery owner. So I had this client, and he had listed with me his bakery, and we had gotten him a buyer. I was really happy because we got him a buyer. So I give him a call, and I'm like, hello, sir. We got you someone who's interested in buying the bakery. When could we go have a gentleman go see it? And then he proceeds to tell me, well, Rolly, I don't think that's going to be possible. So, I got freaked out because we've been marketing this guy's business for a couple months. And then I tell him, well, what's going on? And then he says, I got locked out of the business. And I was right away thinking to myself, this guy must have not paid his lease or something like that. So I was like, do you owe rent? And he says, no. Turns out, when he bought the business, he thought that by signing a purchase agreement, he was automatically entitled to a lease in that location. He ended up spending if I remember correctly, $150,000 on buying that business, and it had $100,000 in equipment in there. So, I start trying to give him consulting on like, hey, let's see what we could do here. But the landlords had no idea who he was. Further, on top of that, they had already found someone to lease the location that had a bunch of bakeries in El Paso. So, I'm hearing this guy, and I get kind of sad because I know, he's losing a lot of money, and when you're a business broker, you're really involved in their personal life. And I started thinking to myself, man, I want to share this story about what happened with this gentleman because I don't want other people that want to buy a business to be confused on one of the most important things when you purchase a business, which is your lease. So, let me see here. So the key takeaways from this gentleman that I had is you want to secure your lease. You want to make sure that you have a lease in your name after buying a business. It sounds so obvious. Like, I think, especially to the people in real estate, they're probably thinking to myself, man, like, how is that something that flew over someone's head? But a lot of people, they're first-time business owners, and they don't know this stuff. Secondly, hire a professional team. Whether you get a business broker, a consultant, an attorney, get someone to help you if it's your first time. You don't want to do this by yourself. Third, this is a recommendation for you to tell your attorney this when doing your business purchase agreement that you want to have in place, is add a clause in your business purchase agreement making it null and void if you do not get that landlord approval. Essentially, you getting your deposit back on getting that business if you do not get a lease in your name. That's super important. If you leave today with just one thing, walk away with that. And then finally, confirm your tenancy with the landlord in writing and not solely through the seller. So that's my key takeaways for case study 1. And so right here, we have a lot of technical data of what is an asset sale versus a stock sale. And the way I look at it, just because I don't want to get too into the technicalities, is an asset sale is you essentially going into a business and just buying the physical assets. Now, when you're doing an asset sale, you could also purchase the name versus a stock entity sale where you're buying the LLC, you're buying the entity. Now with that, you're also buying the risk of the taxes of that business, of any of their debts, any contracts that they have. Personally, me, and of course, consult with your attorney and your trusted advisors, I like asset sales more just because they're a little bit safer in terms of risk. And we're still going to have this on the YouTube and also on Instagram for anyone to download if they want to look at the specifics. So, due diligence. Due diligence is probably the most important thing when you're buying a business. It's basically you verifying what you're being told about that business. You see, when you see an ad for a business for sale, it's going to say, let's just say something along the lines of, you could buy this business for $50,000 and it's profiting $50,000 a year. So what you want to do is you want to follow these steps to ensure that that's true. So first and foremost, you want to look at the financial statements, look at the profit and loss statements, look at the lease, look at the operations. Now the operations is like you going in, talking to the managers, looking at the way the store is running, looking at the community of the employees and how they're operating. Lastly, you want to evaluate the management and staff. And then if you want to take it a step further, you could conduct market and competitive analysis. Now, one thing I do want to clarify, doing this is difficult. If you don't have like a degree in accounting or finance and you don't understand these things, the best recommendation for you is to hire 2 people. One, a CPA. They're going to look at the finances and make sure that the owner's not lying to you. Unfortunately, and there's a story a little bit more towards the end, there is sometimes errors in the financials, and you want to catch that so that you don't put your hard-earned money into something that's not producing what it's claiming to make. Secondly, you want to get an attorney, and they're going to do the legal due diligence for you. So the CPAs, they look at the profit and loss statements, balance sheets, verify bank statements, look at red flags, and offer tax compliance guidance. So another thing, business brokers do not verify what the owner's saying. This is something really important regardless of what broker you work with. They're not going to go through the P&L and then request the bank statements and then go through every transaction and verify everything on there is accurate. That's why we encourage so strongly to get a CPA. I have two gentlemen that I've worked with before. One of them is Paul Mesa, he's a CPA. The other one's Luis Talavera, he's in accounting. If you guys are lost on that, I recommend them, but also if you know someone who is just a CPA, that's good enough. So what does a business broker do? Funny enough, most of my family doesn't even know what I do. It's something kind of random. Like most of you probably, how many of you have heard of a business broker? Raise your hand. Two? Yeah. So we're like real estate agents, but for businesses. Not commercial real estate agents where it's for the land that the business is on, but for the entity itself or the assets of that business, which is totally different. So we help with doing an estimate valuation. We help with the negotiation. Most importantly, and this is my favorite part, the marketing and finding buyers. I do the flyers, I coordinate the photography of the business and all the data from the business owner and market that so people find out about it and could see if it's the right opportunity for them. And then after that, we coordinate the closing. So this part is now for the sellers. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a story. I had this lady, she reached out to me, and she's like, I want to sell my business. I have a pest control business. So I'm like, wonderful. It's profitable. Everything's great. And then she tells me, I'm the one that's spraying the cockroaches. I'm the one that's doing the accounting. I'm the one that's buying the chemicals, all of these things. And she told this to me in a way where she thought it was good. And it really isn't. The reason why is because most of the people that are going to want to buy a business off you, if you guys, leave today and buy a business or have a business already, they don't want to be doing those things. Most of them are doctors, lawyers, or, they're using their 401k into a business, even though they're getting hit on the taxes. Tim could teach you about that. I don't know about all that stuff. So I tell her, we ended up not getting her as a listing just because I was explaining to her, you have to get SOPs done for your business. You want to document every single thing that each employee is going to do. And then after that, you want to make sure you have people in positions so that you're not needed. And if you could make it where you're not necessary in your business and you're able to control everything from afar and be on vacation, that increases significantly the value of your business. Yeah, I could not believe she was spraying the cockroaches herself. She was a really old lady. I was shocked. It was pretty random. So make your financials shine. Essentially what you want to do, you want to make sure your financials are organized if you want to sell. You want to make sure they're clean and properly done. You want to tell your CPA, hey, we're selling this business. Someone else is going to be looking at this. Another CPA, another accountant, and they're going to be verifying all of this. You can't have any flaws. And third, this is where you really, really, really want to do this if you want to expand your pool of buyers. Right now, a majority of purchases, if you want to do them and they're not SBA approved, you have to have 100% of the capital. Now, if your business that you have for sale, you have 3 years of tax returns profit and loss statements and the current balance sheet, we could get all that information. We help produce a packet that we give to SBA lenders, and then they tell us, hey, it's SBA pre-approved. What does this do? This expands the market of people that could buy your business. And also for buyers, this is good information because instead of having to put 100% down, it's 10% down. So it's a huge difference. Instead of paying for that daycare $500,000, now you're paying $50,000. But check this out, that daycare is making $190,000 a year. So you're able to expand those terms, get financing on it, and make some great profit. And lastly, you just want to make sure everything's reliable that you're giving. If anything that you give that I'm going to show to a buyer is not reliable, automatically the deal dies, and there's a very high probability that our team won't want to work with you again, because we want to have integrity with what we do. Just because it's such a big transaction, you want to have good integrity with what you're doing, and you want to know that the people that are purchasing from you are going to do good in the long term. Okay, another thing. Business owners will put personal expenses in their business. Just kind of how Tim was saying, they'll have for example, life insurance. They'll have different types of insurances that directly benefit them. There's some people that I've heard of that they put their kids on payroll and their kids are not doing anything in the business. It's a tax loophole. I really don't know much about it. So what happens is business owners think, oh man, I'm going to be hurt when I sell because my profit is so low, but they don't add back all of the personal expenses that the buyer would not have. So this is the process of, if you're the seller, adding back your personal expenses that the buyer would not be incurring. And this could help you significantly increase your valuation. There's some of these entrepreneurs that they live a very lavish life and they're extracting all that out of the business, and then when you look at the financials or the P&Ls, it looks bad. And then all these things are added back, and we show a meticulously prepared document that explains all this. Then you're able to add back the real profit of the business. Okay? So financial accuracy matters. Have you guys ever seen Crazy Rich Asians? Yeah? Okay. I had one of those guys reach out to me for a boba shop. This guy, he gets those financial documents from this tea shop that I'm representing. This dude sees one of the most stupid errors I've ever seen. He sees that the rent rate that's on our document that he reported to us and what's on the P&L was different. So he was showing on his profit and loss statement a lease rate of about $30,000 a year. So that made his profit for the business be at $90,000. The real lease rate was double that. So when you look at the P&L and you do that correction, the profit is actually 60 grand. That's why doing your due diligence is so important, because you could be misled to buy a business that's making less money by a simple error like that. So he's looking at all this, and the guy was ready to buy, ready to buy. And he just sees that one thing a little further into his due diligence. We were already going to get his IDs to the lawyer so that he could do the contracts. And he's not going to buy it. Because if they just have that one little error, what else is he hiding? What else isn't being taken out of the business? And you're showing me, initially I was interested because it was $90,000 in profit. Now it's $60,000. Now you have to reduce the price of the business, but then still, what else am I going to find? So that's what you really want to tell your accountant if you're going to sell your businesses. Hey, make sure everything's perfect. Go through it twice. look at it as if you're auditing yourself so that you don't kill your own deal.
When you purchase real estate, there's certain disclosures that have to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Is there disclosures that are legally required when selling business, or not necessarily?
So the disclosures we do really is get a CPA to verify everything and get an attorney to verify everything. Truth is, there's such a tiny amount of business brokers that we're not even really regulated too much, if I'm being quite honest with you. Like, for example, realtors, they have TREC. They have the Texas Real Estate Commission. Other types of careers have different entities that are watching over them to make sure they do everything perfectly. Business brokers don't. So that's why I always have that transparency of like, hey, please have a CPA look at this. Please have an attorney look at this. I have not independently verified this. And I tell this time after time after time to my clients, because weirdly enough, I have like a really big belief in karma. So if I feel like if I planted those seeds and like gave them that guidance, that it doesn't come back, because I want to see people succeed after a sale. Let's see. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. His lease rate was $5,000 a month, and he had reported $30,000 for the year. So quick and easy, $5K times 12, that's $60K. So what happened? It destroyed his trust. So you want to verify financial statements, coordinate with professionals, because this could kill a deal. Essentially what we just spoke about right now, just a little more broken down. And lastly, if you do buy a business, you want to not overlook certain aspects of the business, and you want to be educated. One of the things that I always recommend is, in buying that business, part of your contract or part of your negotiation, negotiate the current owner training you, being with you in that business, giving you that guidance, that mentorship, so that you aren't going into this blindfolded. You have that mentorship and that guidance from the person. I'll give you a perfect example. Right now we're selling a piñata business. We have a buyer already, and the guy's like, dude, I don't know anything about piñatas. I make websites. So he's negotiating having the current owner stay with him at 2 hours a week. And to my knowledge, he may even be considering leaving him with 10% of the company to continue helping like that. So that's where getting that help after the sale helps. Now, we had, with this particular story, we had a gentleman who owned a juice bar that wanted to sell with us. So I sit down with him, and I look at a lot of P&Ls. Like, I think probably just as much as an accountant almost. And I noticed this huge discrepancy with this guy. His P&Ls for marketing, how much do you guys think a juice bar spends on marketing? Any guesses?
$4,000 a month.
That's a good guess. This guy was spending nothing.
That's my second guess.
This guy was spending nothing, and he was losing $30,000 a year. So he wanted to sell. He wanted me to do an asset sale where it's just the equipment, and someone takes over the lease. I look at his P&L, and I'm like, dude, is this right? It says you only spent $12. And he's like, yeah. So I was like, dude, before you sell, or before we move forward, I would really encourage you to put 6% of your revenue towards marketing. He took my advice. He started doing it. Lo and behold, he didn't want to sell anymore. He had gotten an additional $70,000 in revenue that resulted in him profiting $40,000 in a few short months. This wasn't even too long. This was like, I want to say, from me initially talking to him in October of 2023 and him telling me this in April of 2024. So that's a big thing. Post-sale, I'm happy to give consulting or guidance to entrepreneurs that maybe don't know what they could optimize. If it's budgeting, a lot of people don't know every industry has a different recommended budget for payroll, you know, a different recommended budget for cost of goods and things of that nature. So we're here to help with that, and I hope, you know, you guys learn from the juice bar story and get someone to help you with your marketing.
Like the marketing hunters.
Exactly. Questions?
What's the best business to buy?
Depends on your risk tolerance.
What's the best one you've seen since you started?
Fine dining restaurant in the West Side was profiting $400K a year. Any additional questions?
When you negotiate them staying in, like for example, 2 hours or whatever, like do you have a contingency set in place if they just like, you know what, I don't want to do it anymore? Like,
Well, yeah. What you could do is you could either do the equity route or the pay route. So that guy was going for the equity route. And if I'm not mistaken, what he's going to negotiate is if he doesn't complete the 2 years, then the equity goes back to him. And that's another thing too. We help with strategy. Depending on whether you hire us for the buy side or the sell side, we're going to help you come up with a good strategy to have long-term success.
Do you also negotiate like people that don't want to sell a business, or they're kind of like struggling, and you're like, hey, have you considered selling your business, like to represent somebody?
We have, we've tried, but for the most part, I mean, it varies from case to case. But like, I'll give you a good example. We had a ultra high net worth individual reach out to us for buying a real estate management company, like the ones that manage the houses and collect the rent and all that. And I literally called every single company that does that here in El Paso. Kid you not. Every single one of them. None of them wanted to sell. So, it varies. Any additional questions?
Do you also broker franchises, or is it just local businesses, or?
Yeah, we've sold quite a bit of franchises. It's a little more interesting because the franchise has to approve you and the landlord has to approve you. And there's also fees with that, but we do work with the franchises.
Which is the most lucrative one that you represented, or that you know of that you haven't represented?
I have an NDA right now for that, but it's it's one of our listings that's at 3.5 million.
Yeah.
It's 8 locations and it's huge.
3.5 million?
Yeah.
One last question. Can you also help a business who's a local business franchise, or turn it into a franchise, or?
I do have some of the knowledge on that, but we don't currently offer that service. But I have looked at like the franchise disclosures and, you know, the document that needs to be made that's submitted to the state. But that's because I was going to franchise Birria, not because I was going to offer it as a service.
That's what I was thinking. You're on there with it. Awesome.
Any additional questions before I get off? Thank you guys so much.
I have a question.
Oh.
Is there value going through a broker on franchise rather direct to the business? Would there be an advantage going through the broker?
What do you mean, like if you want to buy a franchise?
Yes.
Well, so the way I would articulate that, you can't necessarily go through the franchise because usually the franchise doesn't know that this existing business that's a franchise here in El Paso is for sale. They usually mention it once they do get a buyer that's serious, and then they tell the franchisor, hey, you know what, this isn't working out for us, or I'm retiring, or I got stationed somewhere else, and then that happens. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
Awesome. Great
Oh,
job.
you know what, let me get one more question from this gentleman.
Your restaurant's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
There's something new about, you know, businesses and hiring a business broker. It's awesome. Very good information, and I want to visit his restaurant. Well, I already went to this restaurant, by the way. If you like birria, and then I also met Franco, who owns the Bang Bang. We heard about that Detroit style pizza. I want to go try that as well. So remember, get to know your neighbor, get to see what business they're in. You know, it's awesome to meet new people in the industry, and you always learn something new.